Hey guys, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle Corazao-Dinu. I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, and channeler who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, consciousness, energy, and intuition so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. Today's video is an energy update for the full moon in Capricorn on June 21st. I'll be going over the energetic themes of this full moon and providing any wisdom that wants to come through for you. So if you enjoy these videos, please like the video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, one thing I love overall about this full moon is that it's very mystical. We have a lot of this heavy influence from Neptune during this full moon. And so what I really sense about it overall is that we'll be coming into new information, unlocking new information, revealing intuitive information from the spiritual realms that can really help us release what we need to release, let go, realign in a new direction, and come into a new beginning. So whenever we're working with the energies of a full moon, we're working with two polarized energies. And in this case, with the full moon, we're working with that Capricorn energy. We're also working with rebalancing it with Cancer energy. Capricorn can be an energy, kind of like an old man energy. It's ruled by Saturn. And it's all about putting in the work, learning from the past, implementing, step-by-step goals, and really coming into our rewards through hard work, putting in the work, and long-term rewards, long-term results, building wealth, building security, building structure, really implementing things in our life on a materialistic level and really achieving our goals and being very ambitious and coming to the top of our goals, coming to the top of the mountain, so to speak. So whenever we're coming into a full moon, we're really balancing out the energies between Capricorn and Cancer. So I'm just looking down at my notes here. We can ask ourselves some questions. Have you been too ambitious to the point where you've lost connection with other people, where you're being too rigid or ruthless or cold-hearted in some way? Have you been too obsessed with work to the detriment of your own personal life? Have you been hard-headed, hard-nosed, or just hard on other people? Have you allowed your head to overrule your heart? Have you been planning too much in your life or not enough? Are you able to find the balance between kind of work and your home life, work and home? So these are some of the questions that can lead us into our own energy dynamics, where we can kind of assess within ourselves, where have we lost balance? And definitely with this full moon, I keep noticing something that's been out of alignment and where we have the opportunity to come back into alignment. Maybe we've just been kind of aiming or achieving or being really ambitious, kind of in a direction that's a little bit off center, a little bit off kilter, a little bit misaligned in some way. And how can we kind of change our focus or be willing to adjust our focus or be willing to adjust our perspective or where we're kind of aiming our energy or channeling our energy so that we can get right back on target again? Now, the funny thing about Cancer and that energy is that it's linked to the crab, and we see the crab and how it crawls. It's kind of approaching things, from the side or kind of indirectly. And so we might be reflecting on some of our emotional patterns, or maybe some of our personal patterns, or maybe some of our work patterns, where we've been kind of indirect about the way we're approaching our goals, whether it's on a work level or personal level, where we've kind of we're misaiming in some ways. We're approaching it indirectly and it's not really getting us anywhere. Now, there's something to say about these Cancer energies, and that Cancer really loves to have this feeling of home and heart and security and being safe and protected, kind of in our personal relationships, on an emotional level, on an intuitive level, where we can feel that kind of safe space, that secure space. You know, again, a crab is this very soft animal and it has this very hard shell on the outside to keep it protected. So Cancer is an energy that can be very, very sensitive. You know, where may we have, you know, a lot of these sensitivities in our personal relationships that are so vulnerable and so sensitive, and where are we needing to bring in more safety, more security, more of a safe space? You know, where have we been too hypervigilant, walking on eggshells, not feeling safe in our own home, things like that. You know, that can bring up things in our personal relationships that need to come up to the surface and be seen. What I love about this full moon is that it's opposing Mercury and Venus, and they're in conjunction with one another. So I'm just looking down at my computer with my notes so that I can talk about this. But you know, Mercury is that planet of communication. It's the messenger of the gods. It knows how to translate that spiritual information into, you know, something we can comprehend on a mental level and communicate to ourselves or others. And then we've got Venus, you know, this planet of love and relationships and values and money and pleasure, bringing, you know, that harmony to things. And those two planets are conjunct, so their energies are blending together. And so we might have this beneficial communication, this harmonious communication, this information that comes in that brings us some level of pleasure or harmony, or brings us closer in love, or allows us to nurture ourselves or our personal relationships in a way that brings more safety, emotional security, more nurturing to our personal relationships than we have before. And so because this is an opposition of the full moon, you know, this could be revealing the information that we need. This could be unlocking, you know, intuitive messages, or, you know, information that helps us emotionally. It could be supporting our values, supporting new values, giving our values a healing, coming into kind of more clarity of how our personal relationships can be nurtured that brings more pleasure and harmony. Now, generally speaking, you know, a full moon can reveal something that wasn't kind of seen before, so it can bring clarity to a situation. And I definitely see that happening in the form of new information, or unlocking information, or coming into more clarity about information or communication related to, you know, our relationships and love and our values and harmony, bringing more pleasure into our lives. So, you know, that's a very beneficial, you know, influence on the energies at that time. But the full moon can also bring up things to release. And so when I'm looking at kind of the growth period, or the energy detox that might be happening around the full moon, it's definitely going to be related to our communication. I mean, we're going to see things releasing, you know, around our communication. So around our throats, you know, we might be seeing things releasing around our heads, you know, but when I was looking into the energy about what we're releasing, it's kind of like, you know, old communication that has not really been building our relationships, but breaking them down. And a really interesting image that I saw about that was a sandcastle that was slowly eroding, related to our communication space. And so we might be releasing those communication dynamics where, you know, we've been, you know, how have we been conscious of our communication? Like, is our communication helping to build our personal relationships, or is our communication slowly eroding our personal relationships and, you know, ultimately, you know, leading them into a situation or a circumstance in which they fall apart, or they no longer are sustained, or they get damaged in some way? Where have we been neglecting our communication or communicating with others? Where have we been too harsh? Where have we been too rigid? Where have we been too cold-hearted? These are some of the things that might be coming up and out to release around this new moon. And so some people might feel kind of energy sick around this. You know, I saw a lot of people just kind of releasing that energy that, you know, is kind of toxic around their communication. When we've got this kind of heart-based agreements, spiritual agreements being highlighted around this full moon of, you know, where have we been really focusing on our achievements, on our goals, on our abundance, on getting the work done, but kind of neglecting those important signs, messages, signals that we need to address on a personal level. And where can we pause, you know, stop what we're doing, you know, take a break from work and address something on a personal level that needs to be dealt with in terms of communicating something, connecting on some level, or providing some kind of healing, or just releasing something old and embracing something new. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Capricorn because the full moon is going to be in Capricorn. And although Capricorn is a feminine energy, it's an earth sign, which means it's more receptive, it is ruled by Saturn, which is, again, that mature kind of old man energy. And so an image I got for this full moon, an intuitive image that I got, was of a king. And I want you to think about this kind of image with me so that you can really kind of soak in kind of the archetypical energy that we're working with in this full moon. I want you to think of a king. I want you to think of that king wearing like a shiny crown. And that king is glowing and he's abundant and he's, you know, got everything that he needs. You know, he's worked hard for all the bountiful things he has. He's a provider. He's very generous. He's connected with all the people that serve him. He's a wonderful king, right? And then I want you to think of kind of the shadow side of a king, you know, and where a king can be wearing like a tarnished kind of black crown and be really all about the results, but not about the journey. All about, you know, like getting the job done, but at the expense of others, having rigidity, disconnection from the people that serve him, like hurting other people in the process of getting to his goals, being harsh, being cold-hearted, being kind of shut down from that personal connection. That's the energy that we might be working with to release within us. It's kind of a healing around that kind of masculine, mature energy that needs to come up to the surface and release. You know, where have we just been kind of not warm in our relationships? Where have we not brought our heart into our relationships? Where have we not brought in, you know, communication that is open and loving and connected and safe and, you know, brings about real security in our personal relationships? That's kind of the energy that we'll be working with around the full moon. Now, something interesting I want to talk about this full moon is there's actually going to be like a T-square between Neptune in Pisces with the moon in Capricorn and the sun in Cancer. And when I was looking at this energy, you know, whenever you have Neptune kind of in this mix, you know, at a square, it's bringing a type of, you know, challenge, you know, where we have to kind of maybe compromise a little bit, you know, grow through a challenge, you know, like a square aspect asks us to kind of grow through a challenge. It's not something that's going to be inherently kind of balanced out on its own. It's something that we really have to, like, you know, come into and really, you know, work with both of these energies and grow into both of these energies. And we have Neptune squaring the moon and the sun at this time. And, you know, Neptune is definitely showing some level of confusion, or where we've kind of been in the fog, or where we have not had clarity on some level, you know, and where we've been maybe making choices and not really knowing the results, where we've been in the fog and unclear about, our life circumstances, possibly why we're being called in a new direction, why we have to make certain choices, why things are happening the way they're happening. The thing about this is that, we are coming into clarity. And so this full moon will have a revealing of some kind. It will have a clarification of some kind of information that we need to be aware of. And this will bring about more clarity. So where we have not been so clear, we start to become even more clear. And, Neptune is an energy that's very broad. It's boundless. It's kind of multi-dimensional, and it's kind of got us going into our spiritual dimensions quite a lot. So there's kind of like this mystical clarity that's coming in that I feel, but it does take some level of growth or some level of challenge of us kind of coming into that clarity of some kind. Now, another major kind of conversation happening is Mercury is going to be in sextile with Mars. And so, this is suggesting that in order for us to come into new information, we kind of have to go out of our way, take some personal action in order to get that new information. And so since Mercury is in Cancer, and since Mars is going to be in Taurus, there may be this conversation about how do we communicate in more of a safe and secure way? Like, how do we create more stability in our communication? How can we be more reliable and consistent in our communication? How can we create a safe space in our communication? How can we connect on a personal level? How can we connect on an emotional level, on a heart-based level, on an intuitive level? And how can we kind of go out of our way in order to do that? And so it reminds me of having a conflict and having to ask, your partner or your friend or your coworker, questions that might be scary to ask, asking those questions that you need to ask to get clarity, like effective communication. It's like, puts you, in a spot of being vulnerable, puts you in a spot of receiving clarity you might like or you might not like, but it will provide a sense of clarity. It will allow you to open up, be vulnerable, and really get the clarity that you need by asking the questions that you need to ask. And that's just an example. It's not necessarily what everyone's going to be going through, but it's just kind of reminding me of how we may have to go out of our way to get information. The information we need is there, the communication that we need is there, but we might have to, in a very slow, stable, patient way, kind of take some personal action to get that information that we need. Another interesting thing is that Neptune is going to be in a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto in Aquarius is all about that group collective energy and going through massive transformation on a collective level. And, Neptune is all about, kind of our spiritual world, how we operate spiritually, how we operate kind of creatively, how we, it's a very open, kind of free, kind of broad energy. And, when I was looking at that, especially Pluto, Pluto can be like an energy that brings us through our necessary soul experiences, and so we really have kind of like an influence of our soul coming into this full moon. Our soul is coming in and saying, this is what we need to let go of. These are the fears we need to work through. This is the hidden stuff that we need to reveal. This is kind of the natural cycle of death and rebirth that we need to embrace. This is the transformation. This is the metamorphosis that we need to happen for you to come into your power. And so it being in sextile with Neptune brings about like a spiritual transformation. Again, we kind of have to embrace an opportunity. We have to maybe go out of our way to kind of get this support of Neptune or Pluto. But generally speaking, it provides some level of release, or some level of coming into our power, or some level of acknowledging things that are kind of, coming to a completion in our lives. A full moon can be all about something that's coming to a fullness or a completion or an ending. And so when we have a full moon and Pluto being in sextile to Neptune, that is squaring the moon and the sun, I think that this could be some type of spiritual completion that we're coming into. Maybe there's a type of ending or kind of a death process that we're having to acknowledge, something that's over, something that we need to kind of formally acknowledge, reflect on and honor it, and then be prepared to move on into that new beginning. We might have that moment of reflection on some of the things that we're grieving, some of the things that we're letting go of, some of the things that are ending, some of the things that we're complete with, some of the things that no longer serve us on a spiritual level, on a creative level, on an emotional level, on a psychic level, and letting that go, letting it end, letting it release, letting there be a natural time of that ending and completing so that we can move on into kind of the greater change that might be calling us. Because Saturn is starting to have a very wide orbit of conjunction with Neptune, it's going to be about 10 degrees in orbit with Neptune. We may really be feeling how we're being, spiritually restricted, creatively restricted, and where we've got that desire to kind of move out of like our own cages, our own playpens, things that feel like they've been limiting us or holding us back, and where we've kind of lost that connection to something greater, something bigger than us, and that's where Pluto comes in. Pluto can help us connect with something that's bigger than us, to help us understand why things have been so restricted, or where things have been, hard to create, difficult to create, things like that. So the last thing I want to talk about is feminine energy and the way it's kind of showing up in this full moon. There's something interesting going on with the moon, and we have Lilith that's going to be also in a T-square. Lilith will be in Virgo. And Virgo is all about that energy of healing and details and, creating solutions to problems and growth and health and wellness and healing. It's a wonderful sign that really knows how to serve others, and really embody what we need to embody. That Virgo energy is all about how we can, physically embody what we need, to do in order to heal or grow. And so that's going to be in a T-square with the moon and the sun. So Lilith is definitely in this conversation. And, our feminine energy may be looking at some of the details of how things have maybe been out of balance between our work and our home life. Where have we been only nurturing ourselves on small levels? Where, maybe we're putting band-aids on top of things. Maybe we're giving ourselves little pleasures, little things that help sustain us, little things that nurture us, but on a foundational level, maybe something really needs to be rebalanced at home or work in order to provide more of a, healthy relationship between work and our personal lives, or work or home, or where our environment can be more safe or secure or loving or successful, or where we've been maybe procrastinating and we need to put in a little bit more work, or where we've been avoiding, creating schedules or structures in order to do better at work. So Lilith is definitely going to be giving us a type of integration experience or healing experience or growth experience related to this full moon. We have the moon that's going to be in a trine with Hygeia, the goddess of miraculous healing, and Eris, a warrior goddess that's all about, kind of creating chaos for the sake of truth. And so there's definitely a feminine healing going on that's kind of coming in, and what I sense about that is, where have we had to heal through fighting and chaos, and where can we kind of smooth that out and heal that and actually come into our truth in other ways outside of conflict and fighting and healing. So I see feminine energy going through a healing during this full moon. The moon will have an in conjunction with Sedna. Sedna will be in 0 degrees of Gemini. And this, Sedna is a goddess, and the story is that she's kind of hanging on to a boat, and her father has to chop off her fingers so that she lets go. And then she drowns in the ocean and has this kind of transformation and becomes this goddess. And so it's kind of this archetypical energy of things you have to let go of in order to come into your higher potential, and this transformation you have to go through. And that being in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, we might be having to let go of old information. We might be having to let go of old thinking, old belief systems, old pathways of communicating, old ways of communicating, so that we can actually go through a transformation, allow a transformation in the way we process information and the way we come into information and the way we communicate, so that we can really come into our higher potential. And with the moon in conjunction with Sedna, what I'm noticing is a type of repression that we may have to kind of have an insight around, in order to work through, and where we might be, kind of in some ways attached to or holding on to something very familiar, and something that's maybe been emotionally repressed, being that it's in conjunction with the moon. The moon has to do with our emotions and our subjective reality. So something that's kind of been intuitively or emotionally suppressed, or on a body level, maybe we've suppressed something. When we're actually needing to kind of go off into a new direction, expand in some new way. It's kind of that feeling of kind of wanting to move forward and feeling held back at the same time, and just kind of like that push and pull feeling of kind of like there's something emotional here that's kind of holding me back. There's something kind of, on a material level that might be holding me back. There's something that I'm repressing, emotionally or intuitively, or on a body level that's like holding me back and not allowing me to actually aim for my goals or go towards my goals in some way. At the time of the full moon, we're going to have a conjunction with Uranus and Taurus, which will also be in conjuncting Sedna and Jupiter in Gemini. And so generally speaking, there's still that energy of bigger change that needs to happen, that will help bring us into hopefully more security, more abundance, more wealth, building something that brings us more security, wealth, and abundance, and enjoyment in life in general. But, in some way being stuck in the shallow end, and needing to expand and adventure outwards and try some new things, experiment, play, go in a bunch of different directions. In some way, this might be this feeling of okay, there's this bigger change that I need to embark on, that I need to get adventurous about, and I need to just try a bunch of new things, or or, investigate a bunch of things or get curious about a bunch of new things. But at the same time, it's like a little bit overwhelming because it's like a lot of information, or it's like a lot of different new things, or maybe that process of exploring and expanding makes you feel too scattered in some way or feels kind of chaotic in some way. Kind of a need to go beyond that familiar, go beyond, what feels safe, and kind of venture out and find some new information that you may need. Now, Mars will be in Taurus. That's going to give us this movement in our lives, this motivation in our lives that's very grounded, very slow, stable. It allows us to kind of enjoy life as we get things done, as we move forward, as we, put action into things. We can kind of really do that with more presence, slowing that down more, enjoying it as we do it. The North Node will still be in a wide conjunction with Chiron. So there's still that influence of like this kind of destined healing that we're doing on an individual level. But Chiron's definitely going to be in a conjunction with Eris and Hygeia. So a lot of that feminine wounding coming up to the surface and healing it. Okay, so we're healing things around our ambitious goals, our home life, our personal life on an individual level, and just freeing up those parts of us that have felt maybe too restricted, held back, exiled, treated as if we're bad or unsafe or judged. There's kind of like a liberation that's happening, kind of like releasing ourselves from the cage, or releasing, something is a part of us that has felt stuck or restricted in some way. Now, Pallas Athena is going to be in sextile with Juno and Ceres, as well as in conjunction with Chiron. It's going to oppose Uranus, and it's going to be trining Saturn. And Pallas Athena is going to be in Scorpio, so there's a very deep level in which we're kind of bringing in our truth, embodying what we need to embody on an intuitive or emotional level, so that we can, plan and strategize and, bring some kind of wisdom to what we're trying to create and manifest in our lives. And on a deep level, these kind of conversations with Pallas Athena may, where we may be pulling on resources, to nurture us, receiving insights about what needs healing within us, bringing more structure that we need to build or grow into change. We've got Ceres. That's going to be squaring the North Node, the South Node, Chiron. It's going to be in a trine with Uranus, a sextile with Saturn, a trine with Mars, and an opposition with Mercury. Just kind of highlighting where we need to take personal action, speak from the heart, allow some change, be supported by those that want us to achieve our goals. Juno, the goddess of partnership and marriage, will be opposing Saturn, in trine with Mars and in a sextile with Mercury. So giving us kind of an energy of doing the work, taking personal action, embracing personal growth, embracing boundaries, having to balance out the details with, something that's happening more on a broad level. Another thing interesting with Lilith is that she's going to be trining Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter. And when I was looking into that energy to see what that was, I could sense that there are, parts of us that have just kind of gotten lost or gone astray and kind of need to be retrieved. And so I really felt this beautiful, like, soul retrieval experience happening, where we're just pulling in parts of us that kind of got lost, that kind of got treated like they were bad, or were devalued in some way, and we're pulling them in, we're integrating them, we're allowing an overall expansion, growth, or awakening or integration to happen, where we're taking those hidden parts of us and we're pulling them in so that we can kind of know their value, really come into their value, really distill the wisdom from those parts of us and really allow them to express in a new way through us. And so, yeah, definitely feeling like a soul retrieval kind of energy with Lilith trining Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter. Quite an expansion, quite a change, quite an awakening, quite a healing going on. Lilith is also going to be opposing Neptune and Saturn. So, really focusing on the details of what we're creating, maybe feeling restricted on a broad level, doing what you need to do, having to adjust the details to really make it work. These are some of the ways that those two energies can be balanced out. Where do we have to adjust some of the details to get the job done, to do the work, to make it happen, to create a system that works. Lilith is also going to be trining Sedna. And I keep seeing this energy around this full moon around unlocking something important. It could be where we really are trying to see what we learned during an experience. Maybe we went through a harsh experience, a heavy experience, some karmic experiences. Maybe we had just kind of a bad memory or experience, or a hurtful, painful experience that just is in need of healing from our past. And we can reframe it. We can see what we learned from that experience. We can unlock something important from that experience, even if it was hurtful, even if it was painful, even if it was something that left a heavy feeling in our hearts. That's something that I notice with this healing that's happening in our feminine energy. We also have Persephone and Eros trining the North Node. Again, Persephone is that goddess that, brings things from kind of like an immature, innocent state into a mature state that has a lot of authority in our feminine energy. And so having that trine the North Node with Eros trining the North Node, definitely that continued theme that's been going on of, bringing immature parts of us into maturity, into more authority, more feminine authority, so that we can enjoy more pleasures in our life, so that we can kind of enjoy the honey of our life, the simple things, the pleasurable things, the things that we love, the things that brighten us up, the things that bring us joy. But it will require us to work on our past. The South Node will be in sextile to Persephone and Eros. So needing to work out our past, needing to confront some of those hidden stuff in our relationships or values, maybe where we weren't totally, treated fairly, where we may have been pulled into a situation in a naive way, where we may have gone into something that we didn't feel ready for, and had to go through a difficult lesson, where we can do some healing work around that and allow that to bring us into maturity. So overall, I see this full moon as a very mystical and loving full moon that can bring us into more balance around our work and home life, around our personal relationships, and the way we approach our ambitions, and the way we kind of mature in both our masculine and feminine energy, and the way we communicate and relate to each other. We'll definitely be unlocking new information, coming into more clarity around this time. I hope this helped you kind of embrace your current expansions and your own personal evolution. If you ever need one-on-one support with managing your energy, understanding your own personal expansions that you're going through, what's getting in your way, looking at the energy dynamics of your relationships, of the way you're communicating, of the way you're showing up, of the way you're approaching your goals, what you may be attached to that you're not letting go of, anything that might be holding you back, getting in your own way. You can always find information down below on how to book a one-on-one session with me, so that you can get clarity on that, some next steps on that, and also some relief around that as well. So I wish you a very enlightening full moon, and I will see you next time. Thank you.